Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. In today's exciting video, we are going to take a closer look at some interesting United States Roosevelt dimes and explore their history, designs, mint marks, condition, rarity, errors, varieties, and possible collector value. These small coins may look ordinary at first, but some examples can have unique characteristics that make them more interesting to collectors. We will carefully discuss what makes each coin special, what details you should look for, and why condition and minting characteristics are so important in coin collecting. So stay with us until the end of the video, because you might learn something valuable about these fascinating American coins. If you enjoy coin collecting, rare coins, old coins, and valuable coin discoveries, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with other coin enthusiasts. Now, without wasting any time, let's get started and take a closer look at these fascinating Roosevelt dimes. The 1980 Roosevelt dime is a United States 10-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the D mint mark on the obverse. It belongs to the long-running Roosevelt dime series, which began in 1946 after the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The coin has a face value of 10 cents, and although the denomination is small, the Roosevelt dime has become an important part of American numismatics because of its historical background, recognizable design, long production history, and wide variety of dates, mint marks, grades, and errors. The 1980 issue represents the later period of the Roosevelt dime series, when the United States was using copper-nickel-clad metal rather than the silver composition used on earlier Roosevelt dimes. On the obverse, the coin features the right-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt, together with the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1980. The Denver Mint mark D appears near the date area. On the reverse, the coin displays a torch in the center, an olive branch on one side and an oak branch on the other, surrounded by the inscriptions United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and 1 dime. The history behind the Roosevelt dime makes the 1980 particularly interesting. Franklin D. Roosevelt served as the 32nd President of the United States and led the country during the Great Depression and much of World War II. He was also closely associated with the fight against polio. The March of Dimes campaign, which helped raise money for polio research, became strongly connected with Roosevelt's name. After his death in 1945, the United States Mint moved quickly to honor him on a circulating coin. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946, making the 1980 more than 3 decades removed from the original introduction of the design. By 1980, the Roosevelt dime had become a familiar part of everyday American commerce. The Denver Mint played a major role in producing United States circulating coinage. The D on the 1980 dime indicates that the coin was manufactured there. This mint mark is an important feature for collectors because Roosevelt dime collections are commonly organized by both date and mint. A collector may want a 1980 Philadelphia issue, a 1980 Denver issue, and other dates from different mints. The mint mark therefore turns what might appear to be an ordinary dime into a specific entry in a collector's daytime mint collection. The 1980 Roosevelt dime was produced during the copper-nickel-clad era. This is an important distinction because earlier Roosevelt dimes, beginning with the series introduction in 1946, were made from a 90% silver composition through 1964. Beginning in 1965, circulating Roosevelt dimes were produced with a copper-nickel-clad composition. Therefore, a 1980 dime is not a 90% silver Roosevelt dime. Its silvery outer appearance can sometimes cause inexperienced collectors to assume that it is silver, but the composition is different. Looking at the edge can help reveal the copper-colored core associated with clad coinage. The obverse of the 1980 dime contains several important design details. The central portrait shows Franklin D. Roosevelt facing right. The word liberty appears near the upper portion of the coin, while In God We Trust is placed near the left side of Roosevelt's portrait. The date 1980 is positioned below the portrait. The small D mint mark identifies the Denver Mint. Because the coin circulated widely, the highest points of Roosevelt's portrait can become worn over time. Collectors examining circulated examples should look closely at the hair, cheek, jawline, and other raised portions of the portrait to determine how much original detail remains. The reverse design is equally important. At the center is a torch representing liberty and enlightenment. The torch is surrounded by an olive branch, symbolizing peace, and an oak branch, traditionally representing strength. Above the design is the motto EPLURIBUSUNUM, meaning out of many, one. The inscription United States of America identifies the issuing country, while one dime identifies the denomination. These elements create one of the most recognizable reverse designs in American circulating coinage. One of the biggest factors affecting the collector interest of a 1980 dime is its condition. Millions of ordinary dimes were produced for circulation, and most examples encountered today show some degree of wear. A circulated coin may have scratches, small dents, contact marks, dull surfaces, and flattened details. These characteristics are normal for coins that spent years in circulation. However, a 1980 dime that was saved shortly after production and remained protected may have bright original mint luster and sharp details. Such an example can be considerably more interesting to collectors, particularly if it receives a high uncirculated grade. Coin grading is normally based on the amount of wear and the overall preservation of the coin. Circulated grades include categories such as good, very good, fine, very fine, and extremely fine, while uncirculated examples are generally described using mint state grades. In professional grading, the numerical scale can extend from MS-60 upward. A high-grade coin must not only have little or no circulation wear, but also possess acceptable surfaces, luster, strike quality, and eye appeal. Two coins with the same date and mint mark can therefore have very different market values. The term mint state is particularly important for collectors of modern United States coins. A mint state 1980 dime has not experienced normal circulation wear. It may still have small contact marks because coins can strike each other during production, transportation, and storage. These marks do not necessarily mean that the coin circulated. Collectors often compare the number, location, and severity of contact marks when selecting higher-grade examples. Strong luster and sharp design details can also improve the appearance of a mint state coin. The quality of the strike can also influence collector interest. A coin with a strong strike generally shows clear lettering, sharp design elements, and well-defined details. A weaker strike may show less definition in certain portions of the design. Modern coinage can have differences in strike quality caused by dyes, press conditions, planchet characteristics, and production factors. Not every weak detail is an error. It is important to distinguish ordinary production variation from a genuine minting error. The 1980 dime can also be examined for die varieties and mint errors. Collectors should carefully inspect the date, mint mark, lettering, portrait, torch, branches, and edge. Possible errors can include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, wrong planchets, double design elements, die cracks, and other unusual characteristics. However, not every strange mark or apparent doubling is valuable. Post-mint damage can create features that resemble errors. Scratches, dents, flattening, corrosion, machine damage, and chemical alteration can all change the appearance of a dime. A genuine mint error occurs during the manufacturing process at the mint. For example, an off-center strike occurs when the planchet is not correctly positioned between the dies. A clipped planchet occurs when part of the metal blank is missing because of a problem involving the planchet production process. A broad strike can occur when a coin is struck outside the normal collar. These types of errors can be collectible when they are authentic and clearly identifiable. The size, location, severity, and type of error can influence desirability. The date 1980 itself does not automatically make the dime rare. This is an important point for anyone researching the value of a 1980 Roosevelt dime. A normal circulated example is generally a common modern coin rather than a major rarity. Internet listings sometimes show very high asking prices, but an asking price does not mean that a coin actually sold for that amount. A collector should distinguish between an unrealistic online listing and documented sales of comparable coins. The same principle applies to claims that every 1980 dime is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Such statements are usually misleading unless they refer to an exceptional grade, a certified rarity, or a genuine mint error. Most ordinary examples are worth little more than their face value in circulated condition. High-quality uncirculated pieces may have greater collector interest, while exceptional certified examples can bring stronger prices. The exact value depends on the coin's characteristics and the current market. The composition of the 1980 dime also means that it should not be valued as a silver coin. The outer layers are made from a copper-nickel alloy bonded to a copper core. If the edge of a normal clad dime is viewed carefully, a copper-colored line can often be seen between the outer layers. This is a normal characteristic of clad coinage. A completely unusual edge or metal appearance may deserve additional examination, but discoloration alone does not prove that a coin was struck on an unusual planchet. Collectors should be careful when seeing a dime with a strange color. Environmental exposure can cause coins to become dark, brown, yellow, gray, or otherwise discolored. Chemicals, moisture, storage materials, and other environmental factors can change the surface. Such changes are generally not mint errors. Natural tunning can sometimes be attractive, but artificial coloring or chemical treatment can reduce collector appeal. For this reason, collectors should avoid applying chemicals or polishing compounds to a potentially valuable coin. Cleaning is especially dangerous for collectible coins. Someone who discovers an old-looking 1980 dime may think that removing dirt will increase its value. In reality, scrubbing, polishing, abrasive materials, or harsh chemicals can leave permanent hairlines and damage the original surface. Collectors generally prefer coins with original surfaces. If a coin appears unusual or potentially valuable, preserving it in its current condition is usually safer than attempting to improve its appearance through cleaning. Storage is another important part of coin collecting. A 1980 dime should ideally be kept in an environment that protects it from excessive moisture, chemicals, and physical contact. Collectors may use appropriate coin holders, albums, flips, or other archival storage products. Touching the surfaces repeatedly can leave fingerprints and oils, which may eventually affect the coin. When handling a potentially collectible coin, it is better to hold it by the edges. The 1980 Roosevelt dime is also interesting because of the historical period in which it circulated. The year 1980 was near the beginning of a new decade in American history. The United States was experiencing major economic, technological, political, and cultural changes. A coin from that year could have circulated through many different communities and transactions. Although a dime may appear small and ordinary, every surviving example is a physical artifact from the economic life of its period. For a collector building a Roosevelt dime collection, the 1980 can be an affordable and accessible addition. A date and mint collection might include Roosevelt dimes from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco where applicable, with special attention given to silver issues, proof coins, varieties, and errors. Collectors can choose their own goals. Some prefer circulated coins with interesting histories, while others seek the highest grades possible. Some collect by decade, while others attempt to complete the entire series. The phrase EPLURIBUS UNUM is another important feature that connects the 1980 D dime to the broader history of American coinage. The Latin phrase is traditionally translated as out of many, one. It represents the idea of unity among the states and people of the United States. Its placement above the central reverse design has been a familiar feature of the Roosevelt Dimes since the series began. The motto is also found on many other denominations of United States coins. The phrase "In God We Trust" on the obverse is another standard United States coin inscription. Along with liberty, it identifies important elements of the nation's traditional coinage language. The combination of these inscriptions with Roosevelt's portrait gives the obverse a strong patriotic and historical character. The 1 dime inscription on the reverse clearly identifies the denomination. Unlike some coins where the denomination may be expressed only through a numerical figure, the Roosevelt dime spells out the denomination. The words are positioned below the torch and branches, making them easy to identify even when other design details have experienced circulation wear. If you find a 1980 D dime and want to determine whether it is ordinary or potentially special, start with the basics. Confirm the date 1980, confirm the D mint mark, inspect the surfaces, examine the edge, and look closely at the design under good lighting. A magnifying glass can help identify small details, but magnification should not be used to convince yourself that every tiny irregularity is an error. Compare the coin with a known normal example whenever possible. Next, consider the condition. Does the coin show obvious wear? Are Roosevelt's facial details still sharp? Is the lettering crisp? Does the reverse torch show strong detail? Are there many scratches or contact marks? Does the coin still have original luster? These observations help determine whether the coin is circulated or uncirculated. If the coin appears exceptionally well preserved, professional grading may be worth considering, especially if its grade could place it among scarce high-grade examples. If you suspect a mint error, take clear photographs of both sides and the edge. Do not clean or alter the coin. Compare the suspected feature with reliable references, and, if necessary, consult an experienced numismatist or professional grading service. Authentication becomes especially important when a suspected error could significantly increase the value of a coin. The 1980 D dime can also be useful for teaching new collectors about the difference between face value, collector value, and rarity. Face value is the amount officially represented by the denomination, 10 cents. Collector value is the amount someone may be willing to pay based on condition, rarity, demand, and other factors. Rarity refers to how difficult a particular example is to find in a specific condition. A coin can be common overall, but difficult to find in an exceptionally high grade. This is one reason why modern coins that seem common in circulation can sometimes become more interesting in top condition. Another important concept is population. Professional grading services sometimes report how many examples of a particular coin and grade have been certified. A coin may have a large number of certified examples in ordinary grades, but far fewer in the highest grades. This can create a premium for exceptional specimens. However, population numbers can change as more coins are submitted for grading, so they should not be treated as permanent measures of rarity. The 1980 D Roosevelt dime is therefore best understood as a common but historically interesting modern United States coin with potential collector significance, depending on condition and unusual characteristics. It is not automatically a rare treasure simply because it is several decades old. At the same time, it should not be dismissed completely. A particularly attractive uncirculated example, a high-grade certified coin, or an authenticated mint error can be much more interesting than a normal circulated specimen. For beginners, the 1980 D is an excellent coin to study because it demonstrates many important concepts in numismatics. Mint marks, clad composition, grading, circulation wear original luster, dye varieties, mint errors, tunning, surface preservation, and market value. Learning how to examine an ordinary coin carefully is one of the best ways to become a better collector. The same skills can later be applied to older and rarer United States coins. In the end, the 1980 D Roosevelt dime represents much more than 10 cents. It is part of a coinage tradition that began in the 1940s and continues into the modern era. Its Roosevelt portrait connects the coin to an important American president and the history of the fight against polio. Its torch, olive branch, and oak branch represent liberty, peace, and strength. Its inscriptions, United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, one dime, liberty, and in God we trust, connect it to the broader language and symbolism of United States coinage. The D mint mark identifies Denver as the place of manufacture, while the 1980 date places the coin firmly in the copper-nickel-clad period of the Roosevelt dime series. Most circulated 1980 D dimes are common, but their condition, errors, varieties, and exceptional grades can make individual examples much more desirable. Anyone who owns one should inspect it carefully, preserve it properly, and avoid assuming that an unusual appearance automatically means a valuable error. With careful examination and reliable information, even an ordinary-looking 1980 D dime can become an interesting and educational piece of American numismatic history. The 1988 P Roosevelt dime is a United States 10-cent coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint and identified by the P mint mark on the obverse. It belongs to the famous Roosevelt dime series, which began in 1946 in honor of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. With a face value of 10 cents, the coin was designed for everyday circulation, but it also has an important place in American numismatics because of its history, recognizable design, mint mark varieties, condition differences, and possible mint errors. The 1988 P dime features the right-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, surrounded by the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, with the date 1988 and the Philadelphia P mint mark. The reverse features the classic Roosevelt dime design of a central torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch, together with the inscriptions United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and one dime. Because the coin was made during the modern clad era, the 1988 P dime is not a regular silver Roosevelt dime, even though its outer appearance is silver-colored. The history of the Roosevelt dime makes the 1988 P issue especially interesting. Franklin Delano Roosevelt served as the 32nd President of the United States and was one of the most influential American presidents of the 20th century. He guided the country through the Great Depression and much of World War II. Roosevelt was also strongly connected to the fight against polio. The March of Dimes campaign was associated with his efforts, and after his death in 1945, the United States chose to honor him on the 10-cent coin. The Roosevelt dime entered circulation in 1946, meaning that by 1988 the design had already been in use for more than 4 decades. The 1988 P, therefore, represents a later chapter in the history of one of America's longest-running circulating coin designs. The P mint mark is one of the most important features of the 1988 P Roosevelt dime. It indicates production at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia is historically significant because it was the first United States mint and has been responsible for producing American coins for generations. Modern Philadelphia issues generally carry the P mint mark, making it possible for collectors to distinguish them from coins produced at other facilities. When building a Roosevelt dime collection, collectors often organize their coins by date and mint mark, so the 1988 P represents a specific entry in that collection. The obverse design was created by John R. Sinek and presents Roosevelt's right-facing portrait. The word liberty appears near the upper left area of the obverse, while In God W.E. Trust is positioned beside the portrait. The date 1988 appears below the portrait, with the P mint mark nearby. On a well-preserved example, the details of Roosevelt's face, hair, and surrounding lettering can be clearly visible. Circulated examples may show wear on the highest points of the portrait, while uncirculated examples can retain much sharper detail and original mint luster. The reverse of the 1988 P dime contains the familiar torch and branches design. The central torch represents liberty and enlightenment. An olive branch represents peace, while an oak branch represents strength. The motto EPLURIBUSUNUM appears above the design. This Latin phrase is traditionally translated as out of many, one. The words United States of America identify the issuing nation, and one dime identifies the denomination. Together, these features make the reverse one of the most recognizable designs in United States coinage. The 1988 P belongs to the copper-nickel-clad era of Roosevelt dimes. This distinction is very important for collectors. Roosevelt dimes from 1946 through 1964 were struck in a 90% silver composition, but regular circulating Roosevelt dimes beginning in 1965 were made using a copper-nickel-clad composition. Therefore, the 1988 P should not be treated as a silver dime. Its silvery exterior comes from the copper-nickel outer layers, while the interior contains a copper core. When the edge of a normal clad dime is viewed carefully, the copper core may be visible as a thin, reddish, or copper-colored line. The composition of the coin also explains why some people mistakenly believe that every Roosevelt dime is made of silver. The design remained largely recognizable across decades, but the metal changed. This means that a 1950s Roosevelt dime and a 1988 P Roosevelt dime may look similar at first glance, while having very different intrinsic metal values. Collectors should always consider the date before assuming a Roosevelt dime contains silver. The condition of a 1988 P dime is one of the most important factors when evaluating its collector interest. A coin that spent many years in circulation can develop scratches, dents, contact marks, dull surfaces, and flattened details. A coin that was saved soon after being minted may remain in uncirculated condition, preserving its original luster and sharper details. The difference between a heavily circulated dime and a pristine-looking example can be significant from a collecting perspective. Professional coin grading uses standardized grades to describe preservation. Circulated coins can fall into grades such as good, fine, very fine, or extremely fine, depending on the amount of wear. Coins that show no normal circulation wear can qualify for mint state grades. High-grade examples may be particularly interesting, because modern coins can be difficult to find with extremely clean surfaces. Even coins that never circulated can receive small marks during manufacturing, transportation, counting, or storage. The strike quality of a 1988 P dime can also affect its appearance. A strong strike can produce clear lettering and well-defined design details. A weaker strike may leave certain areas less sharply defined. Strike differences are not automatically errors. Normal variations in dies, planchets, pressure, and production conditions can produce differences between coins. Collectors should learn the difference between an ordinary weak strike and an actual minting error. Another area of interest is mint errors and varieties. A collector examining a 1988 P dime may look closely at the date, mint mark, lettering, portrait, torch, branches, and edge. Genuine minting errors can include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, double design elements, and other manufacturing abnormalities. A dramatic and authenticated error can be much more collectible than a normal example. However, not every unusual-looking coin is an error. This is one of the most important lessons for beginners. A scratch through the date, a dent near the mint mark, a flattened letter, or a strange-looking edge may have been caused after the coin left the mint. Coins can be damaged by machinery, other coins, tools, chemicals, or environmental exposure. Such damage usually does not create a valuable mint error. Proper identification is essential before assigning a premium value. The date 1988 itself does not make the coin automatically rare. The 1988 P was a regular circulating issue, and ordinary circulated examples are generally common. Some internet listings may show very high prices for similar coins, but a high asking price is not proof of actual market value. A collector should look at genuine sales of comparable coins and consider the coin's exact condition, certification, and characteristics. A normal circulated 1988 P dime is generally a modest value collectible, often close to its face value. Uncirculated examples can be more interesting, particularly if they are sharply struck and well preserved. Exceptional certified specimens may receive stronger collector attention. A genuine mint error or recognized variety can also change the value substantially. The important point is that the date and P mint mark alone do not make a normal 1988 P dime a rare fortune coin. The surfaces of the coin should be examined carefully. Modern clad coins often develop small contact marks because freshly struck coins come into contact with one another during production and handling. A high-grade example may still have tiny marks, but fewer and less severe marks generally make the coin more attractive. Collectors often examine the open areas, or fields, around Roosevelt's portrait and the reverse design for scratches and abrasions. Original mint luster is another desirable characteristic. Luster is the reflective appearance produced by the interaction between the metal surface and the minting process. A circulated coin gradually loses this original appearance as its surfaces become worn. An uncirculated 1988 P dime may still show strong luster when tilted under light. Collectors often rotate the coin under a lamp to examine how the light moves across the surfaces. Tunning can also occur on a 1988 P dime. Tunning is a change in surface color caused by environmental exposure and chemical reactions. A coin may develop shades of gray, gold, brown, or other colors. Attractive natural tunning can sometimes add appeal, while artificial coloring or chemical treatment can reduce desirability. Color should never be considered proof of rarity by itself. Collectors should avoid cleaning a potentially collectible 1988 P dime. Polishing, scrubbing, abrasive materials, or harsh chemicals can leave permanent scratches and alter the original surface. Even if the coin looks dirty, cleaning can reduce its collector appeal. Original surfaces are generally preferred. If a coin appears unusual or potentially valuable, preserving it in its existing condition is safer than trying to make it look newer. The edge is also worth examining. A normal clad 1988 P dime should have the characteristic layered appearance of modern clad coinage. The copper core may be visible along the edge. If a coin has a dramatically unusual edge, unusual thickness, or an unexpected metal appearance, it may deserve further examination. However, discoloration, corrosion, or scratches on the edge are not automatically mint errors. The 1988 P Roosevelt dime is an interesting historical object because of the time period in which it circulated. The late 1980s were a period of major technological and cultural change. Personal computers were becoming increasingly important. Electronic technology was developing rapidly, and American society was approaching the final years of the 20th century. A 1988 dime could have traveled through countless transactions during this period. It may have been used at a grocery store, vending machine, restaurant, gas station, or other business before eventually entering a collection. For collectors, the 1988 P can be approached in several different ways. A beginner might keep one example as part of a general collection of American coins. Another collector might build a complete Roosevelt dime date and mint set. More advanced collectors might search specifically for high-grade mint state examples, proof issues, recognized varieties, or dramatic mint errors. Each collecting strategy gives the same coin a different kind of significance. The Roosevelt Dime series is particularly suitable for daytime mint collecting because the series has been produced for many decades. Collectors can compare different decades and observe changes in mint marks, composition, surface quality, design characteristics, and production methods. The 1988 P can therefore serve as an important representative of the 1980s portion of the series. The historical symbolism on the coin is also worth studying. The torch on the reverse represents liberty and enlightenment. The olive branch symbolizes peace, while the oak branch represents strength. These symbols create a balanced design around the central torch. The inscription E+Pluribus Unum reinforces the idea of unity, while the name of the nation and denomination clearly identify the coin. The phrase liberty on the obverse is another central element of American coinage. Along with "In God We Trust," it provides a traditional patriotic message surrounding Roosevelt's portrait. The date and mint mark then provide the specific identity of the coin. For collectors, these small details are essential because they allow each issue to be classified accurately. If someone discovers a 1988 P dime and wants to know whether it may be valuable, the first step is to inspect it carefully rather than immediately assuming it is rare. Confirm the 1988 date and P mint mark. Examine the portrait for unusual doubling or other characteristics. Inspect the reverse lettering and torch. Check the edge. Look for signs of an off-center strike, clipped planchet, unusual shape, or unusual metal characteristics. Then assess the overall condition. Good lighting is very helpful during inspection. A simple magnifying glass can reveal small details, but collectors should avoid confusing normal die characteristics or postment damage with valuable errors. Comparison with a normal 1988 P dime is often one of the easiest ways to identify whether something truly looks unusual. If a suspected error appears significant, professional evaluation can be worthwhile. A recognized grading service can authenticate the coin, determine its grade, and when appropriate, identify an important variety or error. Professional certification is particularly useful for coins that appear to have substantial value because it provides an independent assessment. The value of a 1988 P Roosevelt dime, therefore, depends on a combination of factors rather than a single characteristic. Date, mint mark, grade, strike quality, surface preservation, luster, tunning, errors, varieties, authentication, and market demand can all affect the final value. Most ordinary circulated examples are common, while exceptional specimens can attract more attention. Recent completed sales of comparable coins are generally more useful than inflated online asking prices. The 1988 P is also a good reminder that age alone does not determine rarity. A coin from the 1980s may be several decades old today, but millions of examples can still survive. On the other hand, a common coin can become scarce in a very high grade if most surviving examples were circulated or damaged. This is why collectors often search for exceptional condition rather than simply looking for older dates. The coin's connection to Franklin D. Roosevelt gives it additional educational value. The Roosevelt dime is not simply a denomination. It is a memorial to an important American president and a reminder of his connection with the fight against polio. The continued use of the design for generations has made the Roosevelt dime one of the most recognizable pieces of American pocket change. In conclusion, the 1988 P Roosevelt dime is a fascinating example of modern United States coinage. It was struck at the Philadelphia Mint and carries the P mint mark, while its obverse displays Franklin D. Roosevelt with the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and 1988. Its reverse features the iconic torch, olive branch, oak branch, EPLURIBUS UNUM, United States of America, and 1 dime. It is a copper-nickel clad dime rather than a 90% silver Roosevelt dime, making its metal composition different from the earlier issues of the series. Most circulated 1988 P dimes are common, and are not automatically worth large amounts of money. Nevertheless, well-preserved uncirculated examples, exceptional certified coins, and genuine mint errors or varieties can be considerably more desirable. Anyone who finds a 1988 P dime should examine it carefully, avoid cleaning it, preserve its original surfaces, and verify any suspected error through reliable numismatic sources. Whether it is simply a 10-cent piece from the late 1980s or an unusually preserved or error example, the 1988 P Roosevelt dime remains a valuable piece of American coin history and an excellent coin for learning about mint marks, clad composition, grading, varieties, errors, and the fascinating world of coin collecting. The 1993 P Roosevelt dime is a United States 10-cent coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P mint mark on the obverse side near the lower left portion of the design. This coin is part of the famous Roosevelt Dime series, a denomination that has been an important part of American circulating coinage since 1946. The 1993 P dime has a face value of 10 cents and carries the familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. Around the portrait are the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, along with the date, 1993. The reverse features the traditional Roosevelt dime design consisting of a central torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch, together with United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and one dime. The coin is a representative example of 1990s United States clad coinage and is especially useful for collectors studying modern Roosevelt dimes, day 10 mint sets, varieties, errors, and high-grade specimens. The history of the Roosevelt dime gives the 1993 P issue significance beyond its 10-cent denomination. Franklin D. Roosevelt served as president during some of the most important periods in United States history, including the Great Depression and World War II. He was also strongly associated with efforts to combat polio. The March of Dimes campaign, which supported research and efforts against polio, became closely connected with Roosevelt. Following his death in 1945, the United States Mint prepared a new dime bearing his portrait, and the Roosevelt dime entered circulation in 1946. By the time the 1993 P dime was produced, the design had already been part of American life for almost half a century. The P mint mark is one of the most important identifying features of this coin. It indicates that the dime was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia has a special place in American coinage because it was the nation's first mint and has produced United States coins for centuries. Modern Philadelphia coins commonly carry the P mint mark, allowing collectors to distinguish them from coins produced at Denver and other facilities. For collectors building a Roosevelt dime Dayton mint collection, the 1993 P is therefore a specific and identifiable issue, rather than simply a generic 1993 dime. The obverse design of the 1993 P Roosevelt dime features a right-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt. The word Liberty appears above the portrait, while In God We Trust is placed to the left. The date, 1993, appears below Roosevelt's portrait, with the P mint mark nearby. The portrait was designed by John R. Sinek, who also created the reverse design. The detailed portrait provides collectors with several areas to inspect when determining condition. High points of the design can show wear on circulated examples, while uncirculated specimens can retain sharp details and original mint luster. The reverse of the coin is one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. At the center is a torch, which symbolizes liberty and enlightenment. An olive branch, traditionally associated with peace, appears on one side, while an oak branch representing strength appears on the other. Above the design is the Latin motto, EPLURIBUSUNUM, commonly translated as out of many, one. The words United States of America identify the issuing nation, and one dime, identifies the denomination. Together, these elements form the classic Roosevelt dime reverse. The 1993 P dime belongs to the copper-nickel-clad period of the Roosevelt dime series. This is an important distinction for anyone researching its value. Roosevelt dimes produced from 1946 through 1964 were struck in a 90% silver composition, while circulating Roosevelt dimes beginning in 1965 used a clad composition. The 1993 P is therefore not a regular 90% silver dime. Its outer layers have a copper-nickel composition bonded to a copper core. The edge of a normal clad dime can sometimes reveal a narrow copper-colored line. This characteristic is normal and should not be confused with a rare wrong metal error. One of the most important factors when evaluating a 1993 P Roosevelt dime is its condition. Because this coin was made for everyday circulation, millions of examples entered commerce. Coins could spend years passing through stores, banks, vending machines, cash registers, and people's pockets. As a result, many surviving examples have scratches, small dents, contact marks, and worn details. A coin that has remained in a collection or mint set may have much better preservation. Such coins can retain their original luster and sharper design details, making them more attractive to collectors. Coin collectors commonly describe circulated condition using grades such as good, fine, very fine, and extremely fine, while coins that show no normal circulation wear can be classified as uncirculated or mint state. Professional grading services use numerical grades to describe condition more precisely. A higher grade 1993 P dime may be significantly more desirable than a heavily circulated example. However, grade is only one factor. Strike quality, surface marks, luster, toning, and overall eye appeal also matter. A particularly nice uncirculated 1993 P dime can show strong original luster across both sides. The surfaces should be examined for contact marks, because modern clad coins can acquire small marks during manufacturing, transportation, counting, and storage. Even a coin that never circulated can have minor contact marks. For collectors pursuing high grades, the location and severity of these marks can make a difference. Coins with clean fields, attractive luster, and strong details are generally more appealing. The strike quality of the 1993 P dime is another characteristic worth examining. A strong strike can produce clear lettering and sharp design details, while a weaker strike may leave certain areas less defined. Differences in strike quality do not automatically indicate an error. The minting process involves dies, planchets, pressure, and other mechanical factors, and normal variations can occur. Collectors should learn the difference between ordinary production variation and a genuine mint error. The 1993 P dime can also be searched for minting errors and varieties. Collectors may examine the date, mint mark, lettering, portrait, torch, branches, and edge for unusual characteristics. Potential errors can include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, doubled design elements, and other manufacturing abnormalities. Some errors can be valuable when they are genuine, dramatic, and recognized by the collecting community. However, a coin should not be considered a valuable error merely because it looks unusual. One of the biggest challenges for new collectors is distinguishing genuine mint errors from post-mint damage. A coin can become scratched, bent, dented, discolored, or flattened after leaving the mint. Machinery can also leave marks that look unusual. Environmental exposure can alter the color of the metal. These conditions generally do not create a valuable mint error. If a suspected error is significant, authentication by an experienced numismatist or professional grading service can provide much more confidence. The date 1993 alone does not make this dime automatically rare. The 1993 P is a regular circulating issue, and ordinary examples are generally common. Some internet advertisements may list modern coins at extremely high prices, but an asking price is not proof of actual market value. Collectors should look for documented sales of comparable coins, especially coins with the same date, mint mark, condition, and variety. A normal circulated 1993 P dime should not be assumed to be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars simply because someone has listed a similar coin online at a high price. Condition can nevertheless create important differences in value. A heavily circulated 1993 P dime may have very little premium over face value, while an exceptionally preserved example can attract more attention. Very high-grade coins can become scarcer because most circulating examples acquired marks and wear. Professional certification can be particularly useful for exceptional coins because an independent grading company can authenticate the coin and assign a standardized grade. Another feature collectors sometimes examine is tunning. Tunning occurs when the surface of a coin changes color over time because of environmental exposure and chemical reactions. A 1993 P dime may develop gray, gold, brown, or other shades. Some natural tunning can be attractive to collectors, while artificial coloration may be less desirable. Color alone does not prove rarity or value. Collectors should focus on the coin's authenticity, surface originality, grade, and overall appearance. It is also important not to clean the coin. Scrubbing or polishing a 1993 P dime can leave fine scratches across the surface and permanently change its appearance. Chemical cleaners can also damage the original metal surface. Even if the coin appears dirty, cleaning may reduce rather than increase its collector appeal. If the coin looks unusual or potentially valuable, preserving its current condition is usually the safest approach. The edge of the 1993 P dime can provide additional information. A normal clad dime generally shows the copper core between the outer layers when viewed from the side. Collectors can compare the edge with another known 1990s Roosevelt dime. If the edge appears dramatically different, the coin may deserve further investigation. However, discoloration or staining on the edge is not enough to prove an unusual planchet or composition error. The 1993 P Roosevelt dime is also an interesting historical object because of the period in which it circulated. The early 1990s were a time of rapid technological development and social change in the United States. Personal computers were becoming increasingly common. The Internet was beginning to expand beyond academic and government environments, and American society was entering a new technological era. A 1993 dime could have circulated through countless transactions during this period. Although the coin itself is small, it represents a tangible object from everyday life in the 1990s. For a collector, the 1993 P can be included in several different collecting strategies. A beginner may simply save one example from each year. Another collector may build a complete Roosevelt dime date and mint collection. An advanced collector may concentrate on high-grade mint state examples, proof coins, recognized varieties, or dramatic mint errors. Some collectors prefer circulated coins because they are affordable, and because every mark can tell a story about their journey through commerce. Others prefer brilliant uncirculated coins with strong luster and minimal imperfections. The Roosevelt Dime series provides an excellent way to learn the difference between silver and clad coinage. Earlier Roosevelt dimes are popular with collectors partly because of their silver content, while later examples such as the 1993 P are modern clad issues. Knowing the production era is therefore essential when estimating the potential value of a Roosevelt dime. A 1993 P should not be valued using the silver melt value associated with a 1940s, 1950s, or early 1960s Roosevelt dime. The motto, EPLURIBUSUNUM, is particularly meaningful in the design. The phrase is Latin for out of many one, and it expresses the concept of unity represented by the United States. It appears prominently above the torch on the reverse. Along with United States of America and one dime, The motto makes the reverse immediately recognizable as a United States Roosevelt dime. The inscription "In God We Trust" on the obverse is another traditional feature of United States coinage. Along with liberty, it surrounds the portrait of Roosevelt and contributes to the patriotic character of the design. The combination of Roosevelt's portrait, the date, mint mark, and inscriptions allows collectors to identify the coin quickly. For someone who finds a 1993 P dime in a collection or coin jar, the first step should be a careful inspection. Confirm the date and mint mark. Look at the portrait and lettering. Examine the reverse torch and branches. Check the edge for the normal clad appearance. Then examine the surfaces under good lighting. Look for unusual doubling, off-center placement, clips, cracks, or other features that might indicate a minting error. Do not assume that every small irregularity is valuable. A magnifying glass can be useful for examining small details, but excessive magnification can sometimes make ordinary imperfections appear extraordinary. The best approach is to compare the coin with known normal examples. If the suspected feature is significant and cannot be explained by normal wear or damage, professional evaluation may be worthwhile. The value of a specific 1993 P dime depends on several factors. These include condition, grade, surface quality, strike quality, mint errors, varieties, tunning, certification, and collector demand. The majority of circulated examples are common, while exceptional high-grade specimens or genuine errors may command premiums. Because market conditions change, collectors should use recent comparable sales rather than relying on a single price guide or an online asking price. The coin's historical connection to Franklin D. Roosevelt also adds educational value. Roosevelt remains one of the most important figures in American history, and his appearance on the dime provides a lasting reminder of his presidency and his connection to the fight against polio. The Roosevelt dime is therefore both a circulating monetary object and a small historical memorial. The 1993 P. Roosevelt dime is an excellent example of how a common modern coin can still be fascinating. It may not be a rare treasure in ordinary circulated condition, but its design, history, mint mark, composition, and potential varieties make it worthy of examination. Collectors can learn a great deal by comparing a circulated 1993 P with an uncirculated example, studying the differences in luster and detail, and learning how professional grading works. In conclusion, the 1993 P. Roosevelt dime is a United States 10-cent coin produced at the Philadelphia Mint during the modern copper-nickel-clad era. Its obverse features Franklin D. Roosevelt along with Liberty, "In God We Trust," 1993, and the P. mint mark. Its reverse displays the torch, olive branch, oak branch, EPLURIBUSUNUM, United States of America, and 1 dime. The coin is generally common in circulated condition, so the date and mint mark alone do not make it a high-value rarity. Nevertheless, high-grade examples, attractive specimens, and authenticated mint errors or varieties can be considerably more interesting to collectors. Anyone examining a 1993 P dime should avoid cleaning it. Inspect both sides and the edge carefully, and compare its characteristics with reliable references. Whether it remains a simple 10-cent piece or becomes a special addition to a Roosevelt dime collection depends on its individual condition and characteristics. Most importantly, the 1993 P. Roosevelt dime represents a fascinating combination of American history, coin design, minting technology, and everyday commerce, making it a worthwhile coin for both beginning collectors and experienced numismatists to study. The 1995 D. Roosevelt dime is a United States 10-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located on the obverse side near the bottom left area of the coin, just above the date. This dime belongs to the Roosevelt Dime series, which was introduced in 1946 in honor of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. The coin carries a face value of 10 cents, and its familiar design has remained one of the longest-running designs in American coinage. On the front of the 1995 D dime is a right-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Around his portrait are the inscriptions Liberty, In God W.E. Trust, and the date 1995. The reverse displays a torch in the center, symbolizing liberty, with an olive branch representing peace on one side and an oak branch representing strength and independence on the other. The words United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and one dime complete the reverse design. The phrase EPLURIBUSUNUM, meaning out of many one, is a traditional motto of the United States and appears on numerous American coins. The 1995 D. Roosevelt dime was produced during an important period in modern United States coinage. By the 1990s, the Roosevelt dime had already been in circulation for nearly 5 decades, and millions of examples were being produced every year for everyday commerce. The Denver Mint was one of the major facilities responsible for supplying circulating coinage to the United States. The D mint mark therefore helps collectors distinguish this coin from Roosevelt dimes struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which generally carried no mint mark during this period, and from coins produced at other facilities. Because the 1995 D is a regular circulating issue rather than a commemorative coin, it was intended primarily for everyday transactions. Millions of these dimes entered circulation, meaning that ordinary worn examples are generally not considered rare. However, this does not make every 1995 D dime uninteresting or without collector value. Condition, strike quality, surface preservation, errors, varieties, tunning, and overall eye appeal can make individual examples considerably more desirable. One of the most important things collectors examine on a 1995 D dime is its condition or grade. A coin that spent years circulating through pockets, cash registers, vending machines, and banks can develop scratches, abrasions, dull surfaces, and wear on the highest points of Roosevelt's portrait and the reverse design. In contrast, an example that was saved soon after being minted may retain much of its original luster and sharp detail. Coins with little or no circulation are usually more desirable than heavily circulated pieces. Professional grading services evaluate coins using standardized grading systems, and uncirculated coins are commonly described with grades such as MS60 through MS70. Higher grade examples with attractive surfaces, strong luster, sharp strikes, and minimal marks can attract more attention from collectors than ordinary circulated pieces. The 1995 D mint mark is an especially important identifying feature. The letter D indicates that the coin was manufactured at the Denver Mint. Collectors often check the mint mark when organizing Roosevelt dime collections because dates and mint facilities are fundamental parts of a traditional United States coin collection. The mint mark should be examined carefully because damage, dirt, or wear can sometimes make small lettering difficult to see. It is important not to confuse normal mint mark characteristics with an error. A genuine minting error involves an unintended manufacturing mistake, while ordinary variations caused by circulation, cleaning, scratches, or environmental damage generally do not qualify as valuable mint errors. The physical composition of a 1995 D Roosevelt dime is also important. Roosevelt dimes from this era were made from a copper-nickel clad composition, rather than the 90% silver composition used by Roosevelt dimes produced during the earlier years of the series. The outer layers contain a copper-nickel alloy bonded to a copper core. This composition gives the coin its familiar silvery appearance while keeping production costs suitable for modern circulating money. Collectors sometimes notice a reddish or copper-colored edge on clad dimes, especially when looking at the coin from the side. This is normal for clad coinage and should not automatically be interpreted as damage or an error. The obverse portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt is one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. Roosevelt is shown facing right, and the inscriptions surrounding his portrait are carefully arranged to balance the design. Liberty appears near the upper left side, while In God We Trust is positioned toward the left side of the portrait area. The date is located below the portrait, and the mint mark appears nearby on Denver issues. The portrait was designed by John R. Sinek, who also designed the reverse. Roosevelt's image was selected for the dime partly because of his connection with the March of Dimes campaign, which helped raise funds for polio research and prevention. The reverse of the 1995 Roosevelt dime contains a rich combination of symbolic elements. At the center is a torch, representing liberty and enlightenment. To the left is an olive branch, traditionally associated with peace, while an oak branch appears on the opposite side, symbolizing strength. The inscription EPLURIBUSUNUM appears across the upper portion, while United States of America surrounds the central design and one dime appears below. These details make the reverse immediately recognizable and give the coin a strong connection to the broader traditions of United States coinage. For collectors, the 1995 dime is often most interesting as part of a complete Roosevelt dime date hand mint collection. A collector may try to assemble examples from different years and mint facilities, comparing their condition and appearance. Some collectors focus on circulated coins because they are affordable and provide an opportunity to build a large collection without spending significant amounts of money. Other collectors concentrate on high-grade uncirculated examples, certified coins, attractive tunning, or unusual varieties. The 1995 can fit into all of these collecting approaches. A common question surrounding modern coins is whether a particular date is automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. In the case of a regular 1995 Roosevelt dime, the date and mint mark alone do not normally make it a rare fortune coin. Most circulated examples have modest collector interest. Online videos and social media posts sometimes show extremely high prices for coins with a particular date, but such prices may apply only to exceptional certified grades, major mint errors, or unusual varieties. A normal circulated 1995 dime should not be valued at an extraordinary amount, simply because it has the 1995 date and the D mint mark. Condition can make a major difference. Imagine two 1995 dimes side by side. One has been heavily circulated for decades, with flattened details, numerous scratches, dark spots, and little remaining mint luster. The other has bright original surfaces, sharp lettering, strong design details, and almost no contact marks. Although both coins carry the same date and mint mark, collectors may view them very differently. The second coin could be significantly more desirable, particularly if it receives a strong professional grade. This is why serious collectors pay close attention to preservation rather than relying only on the date. When inspecting a 1995 dime for possible errors, collectors should examine both sides under good lighting. Look for unusual doubling on lettering or numbers, missing or distorted design elements, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, unusual shapes, abnormal metal appearance, or other characteristics that cannot be explained by normal circulation damage. However, many supposed errors found on internet videos are actually caused by post-mint damage. Scratches, dents, machine damage, corrosion, staining, chemical exposure, and polishing can create strange-looking surfaces without increasing the coin's value. Proper identification is therefore important before assuming that an unusual-looking dime is rare. Another factor is tunning. Over time, coins can develop changes in surface color because of their storage environment and exposure to air, chemicals, paper, plastic, or other materials. Some Roosevelt dimes may show shades of gray, gold, brown, blue, or other colors. Collectors sometimes appreciate attractive natural tunning, especially when it is evenly distributed and enhances the coin's appearance. However, artificial or chemically induced color can be viewed differently by collectors and grading companies. A coin should not be cleaned or chemically treated simply to make it look more colorful. Cleaning is one of the most common mistakes inexperienced collectors make. A 1995 D dime that appears dirty may tempt someone to polish it, scrub it, or use a chemical solution. This can permanently damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. The safest approach for a potentially collectible coin is generally to avoid aggressive cleaning and preserve the coin as it is. Scratches caused by polishing cannot normally be undone. Collectors often prefer original surfaces, even when the coin has some natural tunning or minor discoloration. The 1995 D Roosevelt dime also has historical value beyond its monetary denomination. Every circulating coin represents a small piece of everyday American history. A dime dated 1995 may have passed through countless transactions during a period when the United States was experiencing major technological and cultural changes. It could have been used to buy a newspaper, pay for a phone call, make change at a store, or sit unnoticed in a collection for many years. For collectors, these small pieces of metal provide a physical connection to a particular year in American history. The 1995 D is therefore part of a long-running American numismatic tradition. It represents the modern stage of the Roosevelt Dime series, when clad coinage had become standard for the denomination. For someone building a complete collection, the 1995 D can serve as an example of 1990s United States circulating coinage. Its importance may not come from extreme rarity, but from its place in the chronology of the series and the opportunity it provides to study modern minting, design, condition, and varieties. When determining the value of a specific 1995 D dime, collectors should consider several factors rather than relying on one online price. The first is grade. The second is whether the coin has a recognized mint error or variety. The third is its surface quality, including scratches, spots, stains, and marks. The fourth is its strike and luster. The fifth is whether it has been professionally authenticated and graded. Finally, actual market demand matters. A price listed online is not necessarily the same as the amount a buyer will actually pay. Auction records and recent sales of comparable coins are generally more useful for understanding market value than unrealistic asking prices. A regular circulated 1995 D dime generally has a value close to its face value, although collector demand can vary. Uncirculated pieces may carry a premium depending on grade and quality. Exceptional certified examples can be more interesting to advanced collectors. If a coin appears to have an unusual error, professional evaluation may be worthwhile before assigning a value. The most important lesson is that not every old-looking coin is rare, and not every unusual-looking coin is an error. Collectors should also remember that the 1995 D dime is not a silver Roosevelt dime. Because it was made with copper-nickel-clad metal, its value should not be determined using the silver melt value associated with earlier Roosevelt dimes. This distinction is important when discussing Roosevelt dimes, because the series includes both silver and clad issues. A 1995 D belongs firmly to the modern clad period. The edge of the coin can provide another useful clue. A normal clad dime can show a layered appearance along the edge because of its copper core and outer copper-nickel layers. Collectors sometimes compare the edge of a suspected error coin with an ordinary example. However, color differences alone are not enough to establish a minting error. Environmental exposure and damage can alter the appearance of a coin after it leaves the mint. For people who discover a 1995 D dime in pocket change, the best first step is careful examination rather than immediately selling it. Check the date, confirm the D mint mark, inspect both sides, look at the edge, and compare the coin with reliable photographs of normal examples. If something genuinely unusual appears, take clear photographs and seek an opinion from an experienced numismatist or a reputable grading service. Avoid cleaning the coin before examination. In conclusion, the 1995 D. Roosevelt dime is an interesting example of modern United States coinage. It carries the historic Roosevelt portrait, the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, the traditional motto EPLURIBUSUNUM, and the symbolic torch, olive branch and oak branch on the reverse. The D mint mark identifies the Denver Mint, and the coin belongs to the copper-nickel-clad era of the Roosevelt dime series. Most ordinary circulated examples are common and are not worth extraordinary amounts, but coins in exceptional condition, recognized varieties, and genuine mint errors can be much more desirable. For collectors, the 1995 D is valuable as part of the continuing story of the Roosevelt dime and as a representative piece of 1990s American circulating money. Whether found in an old coin jar, a collection, a bank roll, or pocket change, the coin can be a fascinating object to examine because its condition, minting characteristics, and history all contribute to its numismatic interest. Before assigning a high value to any 1995 D dime, always verify the exact variety, condition, authenticity, and current market evidence. A careful examination can turn an ordinary-looking dime into an educational discovery, and, in the case of an unusual and properly authenticated example, potentially a more valuable collectible. The 1996 D. Roosevelt dime is a United States 10-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark on the obverse. It is part of the long-running Roosevelt dime series that began in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The 1996 D is a modern copper-nickel-clad circulating coin with a face value of 10 cents. According to PCGS, the issue had a reported mintage of 1,400,300,000 coins, making ordinary examples readily available rather than rare. The coin has a diameter of approximately 17.9 millimeters, weighs about 2.27 grams, and has a reeded edge. Its metal composition is a copper-nickel outer layer over a pure copper center. The obverse of the 1996 D. Roosevelt dime features the famous right-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt, designed by John R. Sinek. Around the portrait are the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, while the date, 1996, and the D mint mark identify the specific issue. The design is immediately recognizable to collectors because the Roosevelt dime has remained one of the most familiar denominations in American circulation for generations. On the reverse, the coin features the classic torch of Liberty in the center, with an olive branch and an oak branch alongside it. Around these symbols are the inscriptions United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and one dime. The combination of the torch, olive branch, and oak branch gives the reverse considerable symbolic meaning and makes it one of the best-known reverse designs in United States coinage. The story behind the Roosevelt dime is closely connected with the life and legacy of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt served as the 32nd President of the United States, leading the nation during the Great Depression and much of World War II. He was also strongly associated with efforts to combat polio. The March of Dimes campaign became closely connected with Roosevelt's name, and after his death in 1945, the United States Mint honored him by placing his portrait on the dime. The first Roosevelt dimes were released in 1946. By the time the 1996 D was produced, the Roosevelt design had already been used for approximately 5 decades, making the 1996 D a representative example of a well-established American coinage tradition. The D mint mark is especially important to collectors because it identifies the Denver Mint. The United States has produced coins at different mint facilities throughout its history, and collectors frequently organize coins according to both date and mint mark. A 1996 D, therefore, represents the Denver version of the 1996 circulating Roosevelt dime. The 1996 issues also included coins from Philadelphia and other special issues, so the mint mark helps distinguish the Denver circulation strike from other 1996 Roosevelt dimes. The mint mark itself should be examined carefully because it is a small but essential part of the coin's identity. The 1996 D belongs to the modern clad era of Roosevelt dimes. This is an important point for anyone researching its value or metal content. Roosevelt dimes from 1946 through 1964 were struck in a 90% silver composition, but regular circulating Roosevelt dimes beginning in 1965 were made using copper-nickel clad construction. The 1996 D, therefore, does not contain the 90% silver composition associated with earlier Roosevelt dimes. PCGS lists the 1996 D composition as 75% copper and 25% nickel over a pure copper center. The clad construction can often be seen along the edge of the coin. When a normal 1996 D dime is viewed from the side, a copper-colored line may be visible between the outer layers. This is a normal characteristic of modern clad coinage. It should not be mistaken for an error. Collectors sometimes use the edge as one of several clues when examining a coin, especially if the metal appearance seems unusual. However, an unusual color by itself does not establish that a coin was struck on a wrong planchet or with an incorrect metal. The physical specifications of the 1996 D are useful when authenticating or studying the coin. It has a 17.9 mm diameter, weighs approximately 2.27 grams, and has a reeded edge. These characteristics are consistent with the standard Roosevelt dime specifications for this period. If someone discovers a coin that appears to be a 1996 D, but has dramatically different dimensions or weight, it may be worth further investigation. However, small differences can occur because of normal wear, tolerances, or measurement equipment, so measurements should always be interpreted carefully. The condition or grade of a 1996 D dime is one of the most important factors affecting its collector interest. A coin that circulated for years can show scratches, contact marks, dullness, and wear on Roosevelt's portrait and the reverse design. A coin that was protected soon after leaving the mint may retain bright original luster and sharper details. Collectors often place a strong premium on coins that remain in exceptional mint state condition, especially when the surfaces are clean and the design is sharply struck. A normal circulated 1996 D dime is generally not considered a rare coin. The reported mintage of 1,400,300,000 is extremely large. So many examples were produced, and many remain available. PCGS specifically describes the regular 1996 D as common through high mint state grades, while the more difficult issue involves examples with particularly strong full bands characteristics. This distinction is important because the date and mint mark alone do not make a normal 1996 D dime a high-value rarity. One of the most interesting features for advanced Roosevelt dime collectors is the full bands, often abbreviated FB. On the reverse of the Roosevelt dime, the central torch has horizontal bands. A coin with clearly separated and complete horizontal bands can receive the full bands designation from a grading service when it meets the appropriate standards. The 1996 D is particularly interesting because PCGS notes that full bands examples are scarce, with weakly struck dies apparently contributing to the difficulty of finding strongly defined bands. This full bands characteristic can make a major difference in collector interest. A regular 1996 D in ordinary mint state condition can be relatively common, but a very high-grade 1996 D with strong full bands can be much more difficult to find. PCGS's population information separately tracks regular 1996 D coins and the full bands variety. illustrating the distinction between the normal issue and examples with the desirable designation. The importance of full bands demonstrates a fundamental principle of coin collecting. Rarity can depend on condition and strike quality, not merely on how many coins were originally produced. More than 1.4 billion 1996 D dimes were struck, but that does not mean that every one of those coins survived in perfect condition with fully defined bands. Millions could have circulated, accumulated scratches, or suffered other forms of wear. Even uncirculated coins may have contact marks from production and handling. Therefore, exceptionally sharp and well-preserved examples can be much more desirable than ordinary pieces. The reverse torch should be examined carefully when searching for full bands. The horizontal bands across the torch need to be clearly separated and complete according to the standards used by professional grading services. Collectors should not assume that a coin has full bands simply because the lines look reasonably visible under magnification. Professional grading companies apply specific criteria when assigning the designation. If a 1996 D appears exceptionally sharp, professional certification can help determine whether it qualifies. The strike quality of the coin is therefore particularly important. A weak strike can result in less defined details, especially around the torch bands. This does not necessarily mean that the coin is damaged or defective. It may simply reflect the way the dies struck the planchet. The 1996 D is an excellent example of why advanced collectors study strike characteristics in addition to general surface condition. The surfaces of a 1996 D should also be inspected for contact marks. Modern coins can collide with one another during production, counting, bagging, transportation, and storage. Small marks may therefore appear even on coins that never circulated. When collectors search for very high grades, they often look for coins with fewer and less noticeable marks. Clean fields, strong luster, sharp details, and attractive overall appearance can all contribute to a coin's desirability. Original mint luster is another important characteristic. Freshly struck coins can have a distinctive reflective appearance caused by the movement of metal under pressure during striking. Circulation gradually wears this surface and reduces the original luster. When examining an uncirculated 1996 D, collectors can gently tilt the coin under good lighting to observe whether the luster moves consistently across the surfaces. Strong original luster can be an attractive feature, although it should always be evaluated together with marks, strike, and grade. Tunning is another characteristic that can appear on a 1996 D dime. Over time, the surface may develop different colors because of environmental exposure and chemical reactions. A coin can develop gray, gold, brown, or other shades. Some collectors appreciate attractive natural tunning, while artificial coloring may be less desirable. Tunning does not automatically make a coin rare or valuable. The underlying condition, originality, and authenticity remain much more important. Collectors should be very careful about cleaning a 1996 D dime. Scrubbing, polishing, rubbing, or applying chemicals can permanently damage the original surface. Fine hairlines left by polishing can be especially noticeable under magnification and may reduce collector appeal. If the coin appears dirty or discolored, it is generally better to preserve it in its current condition rather than attempting to make it look new. The 1996 D can also be examined for mint errors. Collectors may inspect the date, mint mark, lettering, portrait, torch, branches, and edge for unusual characteristics. Genuine errors can include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, double design elements, and other abnormalities created during the minting process. A dramatic and authenticated error can be much more desirable than a normal example. However, it is extremely important to distinguish genuine mint errors from post-mint damage. A scratch across the date, a dent near the mint mark, a flattened area, a damaged edge, or unusual discoloration may have occurred after the coin left the mint. Such damage generally does not carry the same collector premium as a genuine minting error. Before claiming that a 1996D is a valuable error coin, the unusual feature should be carefully documented and, when appropriate, professionally authenticated. The date 1996 itself does not make the coin automatically rare. The large mintage means that ordinary examples are readily available. Current catalog information likewise shows relatively modest values for ordinary grades, while exceptional pieces can be worth considerably more. Numismatic's listed retail indications, for example, show ordinary 1996D examples remaining close to face value through many grades, with premiums increasing in higher grades. These figures are only indications and should not be treated as guaranteed buying or selling prices. The market can be very different for a top-quality full-band specimen. PCGS records a $750 auction record for a 1996 D10C full bands graded MS68FB, demonstrating that an exceptional example can be worth far more than an ordinary circulated dime. This does not mean every 1996D dime is worth hundreds of dollars. Rather, it illustrates how grade, strike quality, full bands designation, certification, and collector demand can dramatically change the value of a particular specimen. PCGS also lists a $216 auction record for a regular 1996 D10C graded MS64 in a 2024 Stack's Bowers sale. This is another useful reminder that auction results apply to specific certified coins and should not be interpreted as the value of every coin carrying the same date and mint mark. The 1996D is therefore a perfect example of the difference between a common coin and a scarce condition rarity. More than 1.4 billion were struck, but the number surviving in exceptionally high grade with strong full bands is much smaller. This is why advanced collectors may examine hundreds or thousands of ordinary examples searching for one that has the right combination of sharp strike, clean surfaces, strong luster, and complete bands. For beginners, the 1996D provides an excellent introduction to date, mint mark, composition, grading, strike quality, and full bands. A collector can place an ordinary circulated dime beside an uncirculated example and observe the difference in surface preservation. Then the collector can compare the torch bands and see how strike quality influences the appearance of the reverse. This type of hands-on comparison is one of the best ways to learn numismatics. The coin also has historical importance because it represents American circulating money from the 1990s. In 1996, the United States was experiencing rapid technological development and significant cultural change. Personal computers were becoming more common, the internet was expanding, and the country was approaching the end of the 20th century. A 1996 D dime could have passed through countless transactions during this period. Its journey from the Denver Mint into everyday commerce makes it a small physical record of economic history. The phrase E+Pluribus unum is one of the most recognizable elements of the reverse. The Latin expression is generally translated as out of many, one. It represents the concept of unity among the states and people of the United States. Its placement above the torch has remained a defining feature of the Roosevelt Dimes reverse design. The inscription, "In God We Trust," is displayed on the obverse beside Roosevelt's portrait. Together with liberty, it gives the coin its traditional American character. The date and mint mark then provide the precise identification needed by collectors. These seemingly small inscriptions are extremely important because they distinguish individual issues within a large and long-running series. The reeded edge is another standard feature. The grooves around the edge help distinguish the dime from some other denominations and have been a familiar part of American coin design. On a 1996 D, the edge should be regular and consistent. A dramatic irregularity may deserve examination, but ordinary nicks and scratches caused by circulation should not automatically be considered mint errors. When inspecting a 1996 D for possible value, the first step is to confirm the date and D mint mark. Next, examine the overall condition. Determine whether the coin has obvious circulation wear or appears uncirculated. Then inspect the reverse torch carefully, especially the horizontal bands. Look for sharp separation and strong definition. After that, inspect the surfaces for contact marks, scratches, spots, and other imperfections. Good lighting is extremely helpful. A magnifying glass can be used to examine the date, mint mark, and torch bands, but collectors should avoid assuming that every small irregularity is an error. Comparing the coin to a known normal 1996 D is often useful. If the coin appears exceptionally sharp and well preserved, professional grading can provide an authoritative assessment. If a collector believes a 1996 D may have a valuable error or exceptional full band strike, the coin should not be cleaned or altered. Preserve the surfaces exactly as found. A professional grading service can authenticate the coin, determine its numerical grade, and potentially apply a full bands designation when the coin meets the required criteria. The value of a 1996 D Roosevelt dime therefore depends on many factors: condition, grade, strike quality, full bands designation, surface preservation, luster, tunning, mint errors, varieties, certification, and market demand. Most circulated examples are common and have little premium over their 10-cent face value. High-grade regular strikes can be more interesting, while exceptional full-band specimens can be considerably more valuable. The actual market price should always be based on comparable sales rather than an inflated online asking price. It is also important to remember that a 1996 D is not a silver dime. Its clad composition means it should not be valued using the silver content associated with Roosevelt dimes from 1946 through 1964. The modern clad composition is one of the defining characteristics of this period of the series. Collectors interested in precious metal content should therefore distinguish carefully between silver Roosevelt dimes and later copper-nickel clad examples. For someone who discovers a 1996 D in pocket change, an old coin jar, a collection, or a roll of dimes, there is still a reason to examine it carefully. Although the normal example is common, the search for a high-grade coin with strong full bands can be rewarding. A coin that looks ordinary at first may reveal better than average strike quality under magnification. That possibility is one of the attractions of collecting modern Roosevelt dimes. The 1996 D also demonstrates why professional certification can be useful. Two coins may look similar to an inexperienced collector, but a professional grading service can distinguish between grades and determine whether the reverse bands qualify for a full bands designation. Certification does not guarantee a particular selling price, but it can provide authentication, standardized grading, and clearer communication between buyers and sellers. In conclusion, the 1996 D Roosevelt dime is a modern United States 10-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint, with a reported mintage of 1,400,300,000 pieces. It weighs approximately 2.27 grams, measures about 17.9 millimeters, has a reeded edge, and uses a 75% copper and 25% nickel outer composition over a pure copper center. Its obverse features Franklin D. Roosevelt with Liberty, In God W.E. Trust, 1996, and the D mint mark, while the reverse features the torch olive branch oak branch, United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and one dime. Ordinary circulated examples are common because of the enormous mintage, so the date and mint mark alone do not make the coin extremely valuable. The most interesting collecting opportunity comes from exceptional condition, particularly coins with strong full bands across the torch. PCGS notes that full bands examples are scarce and records a high auction result for an exceptional MS68FB specimen. Therefore, anyone who finds a 1996 D should not automatically assume it is rare, but it is absolutely worth examining carefully for condition, strike quality, full bands, and genuine mint errors. With proper preservation, careful inspection, and reliable authentication, the 1996 D Roosevelt dime can be an excellent addition to a Roosevelt dime collection and a fascinating example of American coinage from the 1990s.